against your enemies, to silence the foe and the avenger. When I consider your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars which you have set in place. Problem with only having two hands. What is man? What is mankind that you are mindful of them? Human beings that you care for them. You have made them a little lower than the angels and crowned them with glory and honor. You have made them rulers over the works of your hands. You have put everything under their feet, all the flocks and herds and animals of the wild, the birds in the sky and the fish in the sea, and all that swim the paths of the seas. O Lord our God, how majestic is your name in all the earth. And I think it's always appropriate for us to recognize the value of a human being. Now, we live in a society in which there is an intrinsic and a high value of people. I had the opportunity to travel the world in actually several of my previous jobs. And one of the things that's most heart-wrenching is to go into developing countries and see how low people value human beings. And one of the great things about what we get to do is we get to affirm people's value every day in what we do. And that's a gift from God. And it's a gift from God because God said people are valuable. People are made in my image. What we call the Imago Dei, right? The image of God. So let's recognize that we have a wonderful job, a wonderful responsibility to share with people the value they have in God's eyes. And I want to affirm the value you have in our eyes as people as we work together to accomplish God's great purpose here. Okay, so let's move on to what should we do first? Budget or strategic plan? You choose. Budget, all right. Can we go to budget, guys? All right. Okay, so this is our budget. Can anyone see it? Good. I didn't want you to see it. All right, I will talk through it, but let's go to the next slide. Okay, so, oh yeah, I can do that, can't I? All right, the power is in my hand. All right, let's look at revenue and expenses. So you can see, this is actually not a great slide because it should actually start at 0 and not 19. And if it started at 0, it wouldn't look like this, what it looks like. A cargo ship sideways. But one of the obvious things about this slide is that we're expecting to bring in more revenue next year, right? Okay, and I'm going to explain that why we're expecting our revenue to be at almost 26 million versus this year at 22 million. So part of many of you, I think, are familiar with the fact that we are part of Resolve. This is the last year of the Resolve program. And so this is the year that most of the funds are going to come in. And so our budget reflects some of the funds that we expect to come in through Resolve, which we're raising funds to build low-income supportive housing. So those funds will actually go out. The board has approved a 20-plus family low-income housing building, and over the next 2 years, hopefully that building will get built with money that we will receive from Resolve. So that represents about $1.5 million of that increase. Another $1 million of that increase is our expectation. We have hired a company to do our annual giving campaigns for us, and their promise is somewhere around an additional $1 million. There's investment money in that, but the net will be to our positive. So that is reflected here as well. So at least to give you a little bit of a sense of where that extra money is we're expecting to come from. And the other part of it is we now have a more mature development department, and our expectation is they'll be chugging on all cylinders this year. So in many ways that's exciting. You can see that our expenses, however, we expect our expenses to be about a little over 23 million this year. In our budget, we are expecting a surplus of about a 1.8 million, but that's reflective of the money from Resolve. That'll just be kind of set aside for this building project we're working on. Okay, so then we can move on to the next one, which is revenue by source, and you can see donations represent 16 million, and of course the Resolve money's in there. Government funding at about just under 7 million. We just heard from CHF yesterday that they last minute are cutting one of our programs by another 15 individuals. So that number will actually likely be right on par with this year's estimate. Instead of an increase, it'll be a bit of a decrease. And then about 10% of our funding comes from our rental property. And it would be great if the rental could pay for some of our programming, but it never seems to work out that way. But this is what God's called us to do, right? So we're going to invest money in it. All right. So here's our fundraising projection, and so this will give you a sense of where our donation money comes from. So you can see planned giving, our budget for planned giving, and planned giving is basically wills and estates. When people die and they leave money to the mustard seed. Typically, last year was 500,000. That was the budget. We'll have received over 800,000 this past year through planned giving. I could make an inappropriate joke, but I won't. We're going to go on. So our expectation this year is 600,000. Our annual giving, which is what's all of our annual giving? That would include.
Things that.
Okay, so. What's that? Mustard seed donors. Yeah. Month-to-month donors. Thank you. Good, yeah. Does anyone know what's going on around here? I certainly don't. So, annual giving. It's our monthly donors. If you say it firm enough, maybe they'll forget that you didn't know what it was. And then, of course, our cash cow, our biggest way of receiving donations is through direct response, and that's primarily our mailings out to the community. So somebody's trying to get a hold of me. I wonder if it's Red Deer or Edmonton. We can't see the PowerPoint, Dean. Oh, can they see the PDF? Okay, Dean, you should be able to see it. That's all we're going to say. You will be able to see, hopefully you'll be able to see the other one. I'll try to be a little more explicit then. And then major gifts are those gifts that come to us because they're in the 10,000 plus range. Those would be major gifts. And then special events. Our expectation is we've got a number of new special events this year. We're doing a gala in Red Deer for the very first time. So that's pretty cool. I mean in Edmonton, yes. Byron's pulling his hair out right now. Do you think I was prepped enough for this? I'm not sure. So in Edmonton, we're doing a new gala. We've got a number of additional things in Red Deer. We do have the Women's Fun Run this year, which we didn't have last year. So there's a number of new. Some of them are third-party events, but some of them are also just our events. Where there is a transition going on in our gala. These past 3 years, the Westman family has been our sponsors, and we've got new sponsors for this year. So we're looking to maybe change it up a little bit, and hopefully we can expand it a little as well. Okay, so I got to get going here. And then you see the resolve number. Okay. All right. So here's our revenue. 63% of our funding comes from donors. So we spend a lot. We need to focus on our donor care. 27% comes from government funding, which is the vast majority of that is our shelter here in Calgary, and then 10% comes from our rental income. Okay, budget expenses. As you can see, basic services wins the race to spend more money than anybody else. They're at 38%, and then housing's at 32%, and support services are at 12%. And then spiritual initiatives and implementation are at 3%. Fundraising and public education is 12%, and general administration is 3% of our budget. And as you would compare this to other nonprofit organizations, we actually do pretty well.
Sorry, Steve, just question, comment, and that's why my head was going in another direction. You mentioned about the CHF, the 15, the cutbacks with CHF, 15. That's not staff. Just making it clear, that is guests, correct?
Oh, yeah, no, that's not 15 staff. So some of you are sitting there sweating a little bit here. So our aftercare program is going from our aftercare program is going from 100 to 85. We just found that out yesterday, and so it does have a bit of a staff effect, but we've already calculated that. If you didn't hear anything yesterday, you're okay. Okay, so thank you for that clarification. All right. So here's the breakdown in terms of program costs, employee costs, facilities, and as you can see, we are an employee-intensive organization. If we don't have employees, we don't have people to support the people that God has called us to serve. So that shouldn't be any surprise, but it is significant. It's 65% of our budget. Anytime now. Is that the end? Can we go back to the first one? So this is the one you couldn't see, and you still can't see it. But so what I'd like to draw your attention to is line 1, 2, 3, 4. The fifth line down, where at the bottom it says net surplus deficit $1.9 million. When we started this year, the board of directors recognized that this would be a very difficult year because of the economic situation we find ourselves in, and they had not approved, but they recognized that we would likely be in deficit spending, and we told them that we would likely be in deficit spending of between 1.5 and $2 million this year as we get through this economic difficulty. The good news is that that number right there is not going to be accurate. We did this for the board about a month ago before some of the numbers come in. So it looks like we're going to be in a deficit about 500 to 750,000. So that's a praise the Lord, a good news story for us this year. And so thank you for all of you who have been who have monitored your budgets and have said, you know, if we don't need to buy it, we're not going to buy it. We appreciate that. We're also appreciative of all those donors that have really stepped up this year. And where we've seen the major increase has been in the fact that our corporate donations have been down this year, but our individual donations have been up. So individuals have stepped up and said, you know, this is important that we meet the needs of the less fortunate in our society, and through us at the Mustard Seed. So that's a big praise the Lord. You know, most of the times you don't celebrate the fact you're a $250,000 deficit, but in this case it's a good news story. And so likely going into this next year, we will have about $5 million in the bank. And you know, it certainly could have been worse. You know, one of the things the board requires of us is that we have 3 months of operating costs in the bank in case we have you know, some kind of a critical issue and our funding is decreased. So we're pretty close to that amount, but you know, we can certainly say that God continues to provide for us. So let's move on quickly to the strategic plan. And one of the things I should have said at the very beginning, after the board of directors meeting on Friday, I do want to convey to you that the board is very pleased with our performance as an organization, and they would want me to communicate to you their appreciation for all that you do. So last year we created a strategic plan, and a strategic plan is basically a plan that says what are things going to look like over the next 5 years. And so this was the first year in which we had the opportunity to evaluate this plan. So we've got year 1 results, and what we did for the board of directors is we sort of create a report card for us. And so I'll show you. Let's go to the next one. Okay, so here's our report card. So this is the scale. If we significantly exceeded a goal, we gave ourselves an A++. Yes. If we met or exceeded the goal, we gave ourselves an A. If we were within 5% of the goal, we gave ourselves an A-. If we were within 10% of the goal, we gave ourselves a B. If we were more than 10%, we gave ourselves a C. And because we didn't want to get too disheartened, that's where we stopped. Okay? So, and we also have a plus. And that means that we've created a new goal for this year that wasn't in the strategic plan. Do we know if Edmonton's online now? They are? Good. Good. Okay, so basically our strategic plan is divided into 2, 4, 6, 8 areas. Basic services, support services, housing, our culture, our spiritual care, our community involvement, our resources, and geographical expansion. Okay, so we start with basic services. So as you can see, basic services is meeting the physical needs of those requesting our help. So our year 5 objective regarding the emergency shelter is an average of up to 450 individuals per night that we're providing emergency shelter for. So our year 1 deliverable was provide up to 350 adults The Mustard Seed provided an average of 325 adults per night in 2016. This is an interesting one to measure because our part of our vision is to move people from homelessness to homes. And so if we only measure the number of people in our shelter, it may not be a great reflection of what we're trying to accomplish. And so, but on the other hand, if let's say the Dream Center or one of the other shelters, they're all full and we're at 70% capacity, then we're likely doing something wrong. People don't want to be in our shelter. And so it's a bit of a tricky one. And so that's why we're saying provide up to. So as we move forward this next year, our year 2 deliverable is to explore a shelter in the south side of Edmonton. As most of you know, Edmonton knows very well that the Neighbor Center joined us this last year. They're on the south side of Edmonton, on the other side of the river. There is no emergency shelter in the south part of Edmonton. And so we're exploring the possibility of opening a shelter in the south side of Edmonton this next year. And so our goal is to provide emergency shelter for up to 370 individuals this next year. Another part of basic services is meals and food. And so you can see our year 1 deliverable, we gave ourselves an A-. Mustard Seed provided 451,492 meals in 2016. And that number included hampers in Calgary, Edmonton, and Red Deer, dinner club in Edmonton, community kitchen in Calgary, shelter meals in Calgary, school lunches in Red Deer, evening meals in Red Deer and Edmonton. So that's the total of all those things together. Our goal for this next year is 475,000 meals by December 2017. Now, because this was the first year we created a strategic plan, some of our numbers were a little iffy. This is one of those. So provide clothing and living essentials for 300,000 individuals by 2020. This year we provided housing, living essentials to 20,000, that was the goal, 20,000 individuals in 2016. In reality, we provided 51,704 individuals with clothing and living essentials. And part of that, I think, was because one of the things that you're forced to do when you have a strategic plan, you're forced to really look at your numbers. And you're forced to try to figure out ways in which you can count accurately, and this is one of the results. So that's actually a great news story, though, that there's over 50,000 individuals that received some clothing from us this past year in Calgary, Edmonton, and Red Deer. Our year 2 deliverable: provide clothing and living essentials for 60,000. And number 2, explore opening a resource center in Red Deer. So we're looking at growing the Red Deer program and ministry there. Support services. Objective number 1, establish support service centers in 10 needy communities by December 2020. So we gave ourselves an A in that because we established a Mustard Seed Hub, West Campus, Centre Street Church in Calgary, and the merger with the Neighbor Center represented our hub that we created in Edmonton. Our goal is to create 2 more, and right now we're looking at a potential of building a hub in Forest Lawn in Calgary this next year. And then in Edmonton, we're in conversation with the Mosaic Center, and they will likely be joining us in June of this year. So those will be our 2 additional hubs as we move forward. Objective number 2. This is our first C, guys, and we're all discouraged by it. So the goal was to place 250 individuals into sustainable employment by 2020 Oh, it didn't change. Oh, sorry. By December 2016. There are a couple of reasons why this didn't happen. We lost a number of our staff on the employment team here in Calgary. We thought the employment team in Edmonton would be up and running a little sooner in the year. And of course, we're dealing with the economic downturn here in Calgary. It's just harder to find jobs for people. So, but good results. We provide 168 sustainable employment secured for clients in 2016. And in Edmonton, they have hired an employment coach in this past year. So next year, we've reduced it a little bit because of the economy to 200, but are looking forward to meeting that objective. Okay, objective number 3. Year 1 deliverable, graduate 85 people from the employment program by December. Oh, I did. Good grief. Okay, good. Thank you. I would call you guys hecklers, but you're actually helping me, so I appreciate that. Do you want us to help? No, I want you to help, yes. Okay, so 69 clients in Calgary graduated from program. Our goal for next year is we've remained the same goal of 85. Did I jump ahead? No, good. Okay, so increase health and wellness services to total 150,000 individuals by December 2020. So we gave ourselves a C, and this is kind of an interesting one because it's almost a false positive because we provide 16,838 services in 2016, of which 8,000 of those services were provided in the last 3 months. And that's because of the wellness center opening. So up until and that's really cool because up until October we were averaging about 700 services a month, and now in March we're averaging over 3,000, right? Over 3,000. Thanks, Boris. Services a month. So that's right. This has been an amazing opportunity to meet needs. And while it's a C this year, we're certainly expecting, as you can see by the goal, 40,000 services by December of 2017. And the second is to build a business plan for up to 2 mobile health units by December 2017. We're in conversation both in Calgary and Edmonton, both the possibility of having a mobile health unit that goes to needy communities throughout the cities and potentially even to some of the reservations. So we'll see how that goes, but I'm excited about it. Okay, so housing. Have 350 Mustard Seed owned permanent supportive housing by December 2020. I didn't jump ahead, did I? Okay, good. So our goal was 330 by this year. But we didn't reach that goal. We have 298. We did add a couple from Red Deer. We are looking for next year, looking at 314 permanent supportive housing. The problem is this is a very expensive venture. Okay? So even to go and add 50 more units, we're talking anywhere between 100,000 to 200,000 a door. So when you think of that, that's a lot of money. So, but we're committed to finding housing for, and especially as we're looking forward to finding housing for families. Okay, next objective. Make sure where I'm at here. Okay, full occupancy. For all our funded housing, you can see how we did this year, and of course we want to do the same for next year. Objective number 3, maintain 95% occupancy for all Mustard Seed buildings. It's a new objective. And so that will be a challenge for us, especially in the 1010 building. But we believe that we've got the team to do it. So now we're going to look at culture for a few minutes. Recognize as a vibrant Christian community and an outstanding place to work. And we continue to work on that. One of the ways we do it, one of the ways we measure it is through the Best Christian Workplace. And our year one deliverable was to have a higher score than the baseline we had in 2015. And so we went from 3.83 to 3.97 this year. So our year two deliverable is to increase that score to 4.05 by the end of this next year. In order to be recognized as a best Christian workplace, and to my knowledge, there's only one nonprofit in Canada that met that criteria this past year, is to have a score of around 4.22. So we've got a bit of a ways to go as we move forward. This next one, decrease employee turnover to less than 37% in 2016. Our employee turnover this past year was at 31%. So that's encouraging because 37% is the industry average for social service agencies, which seems like a really high number, and it is. But we're at 31%. Our goal is to get less than 31% this year. Many of you, I think, have been wondering and struggling a little bit with the number of terminations that we've experienced here in the last 3 months. And it concerns all of us. And we need to do better. And we, as the executive team, we accept the responsibility for failure here. And so, one of the promises I gave to you a couple of years ago is that no one would be terminated without knowing why they were terminated, or not knowing it was coming. And I think we've actually failed you in that in these last 3 months. And we're working to improve that. We're working to make sure that we're doing better in our hiring practice, so that we get the people that we know will continue to work here. The second thing is we need better training for our managers. And if there are performance issues, we need to get to a place where our managers are on it right away, and we're developing improvement plans. And termination is our last resort and not our first resort. So we accept responsibility for that. And at the same time, there are always reasons that we don't share with employees why people are terminated. That's just the way it is in organizations. But I wanted to let you know that we're concerned. We're concerned about both our perception and the reality of what's happening, and our commitment is to do better. So, anyways, for whatever that's worth. Okay, so the next one is spiritual care. And so everyone has the opportunity to hear the gospel. So our 5-year objective is that we have 40,000 spiritual care event attendees by 2020. And so our year one deliverables have 3,000 clients in some form of structured personal spiritual development this past year. And as you can see, the team blew that out of the water. We had 7,383 spiritual care event attendees in 2016. So that is was very heartening to the board of directors, because they part of a lot of their passion is around, are we reflecting Christ in what we do here as an organization, and are we providing opportunities, and have we earned the right to have conversations with people? And so this is demonstrating that we're earning that right. And so the reason why we say clients in some form of structured personal spiritual development is that one of our clients may go to a Bible study and then they may go to a church service or they may go into discipleship. Those would be 3 spiritual events, because we don't have the tracking to say, oh, Fred went to Bible study, so we can only count him once this week. So that's the goal. So our goal for this next year is 7,000 spiritual event attendees. And of course, we all know that these are voluntary. Our goal, our responsibility is to provide opportunities and develop relationships so people desire to explore that spiritual part of their life. But it's their choice to make the decision of whether they're going to or not. Okay. And this is one for all of us. Staff members with direct access to our clients at the Mustard Seed to have at least 6 spiritual conversations with guests or volunteers by 2020. We're growing that. This first year, it was part of doing that is to get people trained. And as you can see, we only had 61% of our staff trained. So if we had taken this this number in July, the number would have been a lot higher. But we've had a lot of new employees. How many of you started this past year? Okay, yeah. So that the significant part. We see all of the hands in Red Deer raised, and many hands in Edmonton as well. So what we've done is our spiritual conversations training. We're implementing it as part of our staff orientation and training this year, so that everyone has that as they hit the road running. The second deliverable is that every staff member with direct contact with our guests or volunteers have at least 2 spiritual conversations in 2016. And as you can see, this is the compliance level. Next year, we want to continue that, so that I know some of you have spiritual conversations every day or once a week, but we just want to make sure that everyone is at least having a couple during the year, because we offer physical, emotional, but we also, what makes us different is we also offer spiritual care, and that has to be a part of who we are. Okay, community involvement. We've got another A++. 30,000 volunteers contributing 100,000 volunteer hours. Our year 1 deliverable. 22,000 volunteers will contribute 60,000 hours by 2016. We actually had 28,526 volunteers this past year, and they contributed over 86,000 hours. And that's a pretty amazing number. And I think, and certainly kudos to Drew's team as they work hard at integrating volunteers into the Mustard Seed. I think I figured that was like 25 full-time jobs. So anyway, so that's an amazing number. Next year we want to increase that from the 28,000 to 30,000. Here's another A++. Actively partner with 45 churches. This past year we engaged 154 churches with the Mustard Seed, and so that's something to also be proud of. And so we're looking at 160 churches for next year. Okay, I've already gone over time. We're going to go really fast here now. Okay, actively partner with 1,000 businesses and community groups. As you can see, in reality this year, we actively partnered with 1,149 businesses and community groups. So that's an amazing number. I don't know of any organization that can say that they've got that level of involvement by the community. Resources, year 1 deliverable, a budget based on the strategic plan on the fiscal year 2017 will be met. We will meet our budget this year. And so, given the economics of in the world we live, that's amazing, really. So, and our goal for next year is to build a budget that we can meet as well, which we have. And so we are fortunate with many other nonprofits haven't been able to say that this year. Okay, facilities, sorry. To build a strategic facility plan for 2016, and so the Mustard Seed has built that plan. Actually, Donald and his team have built that plan, so we appreciate facilities and all the work they've done. It's about a document about that thick, which over the next 5 years talks about how we're going to take care of the buildings that we own. And then finally, reduce our carbon footprint by 10%. Our goal was to establish a team and begin to strategize. We've got the team established, but we haven't done any strategy around it, so we couldn't give ourselves an A. So our goal this year is to create an implementation plan, reduce our carbon footprint, and begin measurement. One of the things that the government has been very proactive in, they have been giving those in social services the funds to improve their facilities. So we've been the beneficiary of some of those funds. We received $90,000 this year to change all the windows here in the 102 building, which will make us much more energy efficient. We also were given funds for a new boiler here in the 102 building. They've given us some funds for some improvements in the shelter. So as we move forward, there's the government's interested in helping out in those areas. And to be honest, I think we can blow this 10% number, right out of the sky. I'm expecting us to be able to get to 30% or more. So our final one is an added one to establish a Mustard Seed presence in 1 or 2 cities. And the board has given us freedom to have conversations with cities and communities outside of Alberta. So we don't know how this is all going to evolve, but we're open to exploring mustard seeds in other parts of the country, as well as exploring other cities here in Alberta. So that's our strategic plan. I've only gone 5 minutes over, but the crux of it is, guys, we're doing great. We really are doing well. And we're doing well because of each one of you. So I personally want to thank you for making me look good, because you have. You truly have. I believe that there's a lot more work to do, but let's never underestimate or downplay the impact that we're making right now, because we are making a significant impact in people's lives. Let me close in prayer. Our Heavenly Father, I want to thank you for the opportunity you give us to work towards goals, to see opportunities in front of us. And Father, I pray for our staff, our team, this community here, that Lord, that you would help us not to see numbers, but Father, you would help us to see people that are touched and transformed, and their lives are radically changed, and they move towards health and well-being because we are here and we are doing the work you've called us to. Father, we thank you for the many blessings this year. We thank you for the financial blessings we've received, how you've met our needs. And we pray, Lord, that you would help us to be good stewards, always vigilant, and always committed, Lord, to serving your interest as we serve others. In Christ's name, amen. Blessings, guys.